just getting started on a piece of artwork can be quite daunting, that kind of blank page, and you're thinking, where do I even start? So in this tutorial, we're going to be creating some abstract designs, and they're going to be inspired by nature and the natural world. But we're not going to just sort of look at them and reproduce a leaf or a twig or a pattern on a pebble. We're going to use these as inspiration. And I'm going to be using a variety of different media. So whatever you have at hand, actually, whatever you would prefer to use. I'm going to be using some collage, some watercolour, some pencils, some acrylic paint, and maybe a few other bits and pieces that I might find lying around my studio because it's quite messy. Welcome. Welcome to Friday Art, the alternative art school with me, Cate Field. I'm an artist, teacher, speaker, writer, passionate about helping you find your creative spirit, and then once you've found it, to show you ways in which you can develop it further. And I've now got something kind of fuzzy on my glasses. I do hope you are well, and I really hope you are going to get a lot from this tutorial. So let's go. I am always inspired by the natural world. I'm very lucky. I live in the country near the sea, and there's just so much nature when I just look out of my window and step out of my front door. But wherever we live, and I used to live in London and in urban areas for most of my life, there is always some element of the natural world to inspire us. And I would encourage you to just look on your doorstep and see what's there. Now, I use the elements of nature a lot in my work. I will do observational studies and be inspired by them. But in today's tutorial, we're going to take some of these elements and turn them into abstract pieces. And it's one of the things that I find when I am teaching in my classes, that people kind of get a little bit stuck on where to even begin. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to be working directly into my sketchbook. You can work however you want. So I've got some driftwood. I've got some pebbles that I picked up on the beach. This one has like a hole in it. These are called hagstones. And they were used to ward off evil spirits from all sorts of mythical creatures in the sea. Anyway, this one has a little stone stuck in it, but I really like this texture and I like the pattern. This one again, look at that. Fascinating shapes and patterns. And this is the end of a tulip. My lovely, lovely friend bought me some flowers when I wasn't feeling well. And they're coming to the end of their lives now. But look at that. Look at that colour. That yellow gold going into the purple. I might use that. Dandelion leaf. Very, very common. And again, the textures here. So I'm going to start off just using a pencil. And I'm going to start by dividing my page into a grid. I do this quite a lot. It's quite nice. It makes a page manageable. Now you can do this with a ruler and divide up your spaces. I'm just going to do it freehand. And I'm going to divide my double page like this into 6 pieces on that side, 6 on that side. And then I'm going to work in each individual square. You don't have to do it like this, but I find it kind of can help when we're just getting started. And I'm going to start by looking at the patterns on this absolutely gorgeous stone. And with my pencil, I'm going to just kind of have a look at, I'm not going to copy it exactly, I'm just taking an idea. I liked this bit here. It's like kind of a contour of the land itself. And when we take our inspiration from the natural world, things automatically become quite organic. But then what you then do with that is entirely up to you. I'm just going to leave that one like that. Let's have a look. Well, that bit's quite interesting as well, isn't it? Let's just move into this corner here. As I say, you can work in whatever corner you want. It doesn't matter. There we go. I'm going to put that there. And you can get a bit there and this bit over here. So the idea is that you're just inspired by something related to your object. So that could be the texture, the shape, the colour, whatever it is. I'm just putting that there like that. So the next thing I'm going to look at is this lovely branch. Oh, it's been in my studio for a while actually, so it's got very brittle. But I love the shapes, and I know that when I start to use these, it will have this organic feel. I'm going to sort of take this idea. I mean, I'm actually going to just go around some of the edges, really. You know, don't feel that you've got to be good at drawing or things like that, because you don't. Art is much, much more than drawing. Although drawing is wonderful, but drawing is a skill, and as a skill, you can learn how to do it. Let's have a look at this one. Look at that little clover with its hearts. How adorable is that? Not sure what I'm going to do with that one. I'm going to leave that one for the minute. It's a bit too heart-like. And for the whole of February, we had the Heartscapes project. So I'm a little bit fed up with hearts at the minute. Again, you could draw around this, or you could just be inspired by the shape, and that's what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to take that shape and kind of just bring it around. There's lots of kind of like wiggly bits to it, and again, I'm just playing with some ideas. So I'm going to do these shapes and lines in all of the spaces, and then we're going to start to do some mark making, some texture and some colour. So I have filled each of my squares, and what I'm going to do now is to use some watercolours to just put in a little bit of colour. Again, you could use whatever you want, and what I'm going to do is I will just start here. I'm going to go into the negative space. I'm going to try out a whole variety of different ideas, perhaps using bright and bold colours, and then using some more muted neutral colours, and let's see what I like. And this is my sketchbook, so it doesn't matter if there's mistakes. And with my students, I would expect to see mistakes, because making mistakes is an absolutely vital part of creativity. It's essential, absolutely essential, and not something to get worried about. So I'm just going to pop that one in there. Let's take this one here. Let's make sure I've got that lined up. Again, I'm just going to put in a little bit of colour. I'm just trying out some ideas. And this is what I believe a sketchbook is for. It's for trying out things. And then I will write little notes and things like that. Again, I'm just putting in just some base colours to start me off, really. I'm going to sort of do some more muted colours. So I've got it's very messy because I was using it yesterday. Just going to keep that green that I've just used, but I'm going to add some black to it. Let's pop that one in there. It's a little bit dark, but that's okay. Just getting that. Makes quite a nice grey, I think, when you mix green with the black, which is what I wanted. I'm now actually going to use my thinner brush and go into some of these spaces like that. And then what we're going to do is do a bit of mark making, which I love. Mark making makes some absolutely terrific textures. Splotch there, that's fine. This is quite dry, this orange bit, so I'm now going to do some mark making using my brush into this space here. Just sort of putting some lines across, breaking up the space to create a bit of texture. And again, this is where I would just encourage you to try things out. And when you're working in a tiny little space like this, if you do something and you don't like it, doesn't matter, because it's just you trying something out. That's that is the whole point. Let's just do that there. And, at the end of the tutorial, I'll show you how I'll finish these off a little bit. I won't finish them off completely because they're in my sketchbook. As I say this, I say this all the time. I very, very rarely finish things in my sketchbook. Right, let's add a bit of blue. I'm just going to do a whole variety of different colours on this actually, so it might look a complete mess. Oh, let's just put that in there. I want to put the colours in quite quickly because this is where I'm trying out an idea, so I don't want to spend too much time playing with an idea, but I do want to give myself a bit of a chance to see what something might look like. And this is when I start to develop an idea. Now, a lot of people, a lot of my students included, get a little bit confused when I talk about developing an idea. So I am going to take some of these and show you how I develop it and show you what that actually means. Because if you actually, excuse me, study art and design, part of your qualification is showing how you develop an idea. Your artists don't just work with the first thing that pops into their head. It's not how it works. we try out lots of different things first. First of all, right, I'm just going to move that over that way a little bit. Go back to that orange, but mix with a little bit. This is from the wood. I'll show you. Quite liked that. See these bits here. Kind of took my idea from that. So I'm just going to, again, using these sort of neutral colours. Popping those down like that. Just get my smaller brush. See what happens if I put a little bit of red in there. Not sure about that. And this is the thing. You try something out, you think, oh, that might be quite good, and you put it in your sketchbook and you think, oh no. No, I don't like that at all. And that's the whole point. That is the whole point. Right, let's go back to sort of blues. I mean, this page is turning into quite neutral ideas, actually. Right, this one was the tulip. I don't want to do it in the tulip colours, but I will be inspired by those tulip colours a little bit later. Just going to put in... So this is a little bit of turquoise mixed with brown. Again, I'm just playing with an idea here. I'm going to add some more texture to it using mark making. So at the moment I'm just using watercolour and my brushes. Let's do that there. Perhaps a little bit more brown, but there, and I'll just knock that back just a little bit. Quite liking that. Let's move. I'm just going to turn the book around. Work on this bit. Yeah, don't think you have to turn things the right way all the time. Sometimes turning something upside down can give you a really interesting viewpoint, and you think, actually, I prefer it upside down. It's all good. These were the marks on the pebbles. So again, just putting these. I do actually like this colour as I'm working with this sort of kind of teal and brown. I quite like that. Let's add a bit of green to that as well. I'm taking these, so these are all quite organic. This is from the wood as well. Just sort of these bits here. Let's go in with a bit of yellow, I think. Might be a bit too bright. Let's just knock that back a little bit. Again, just trying different thoughts, different ideas as they pop into my head. Working quite quickly, not worrying about it. Not worrying about it at all, actually. Just having a bit of fun. I do actually really like putting paint on to paper. I like the physical aspect of that. It makes me happy. Let's just sort of turn that round. I'll do another two there, and then we'll move on to the next bit.
Many of you have been following my tutorials for a while, and I'm so grateful for this wonderful community. If you've ever wished for more behind the scenes content, exclusive tips, or even just a way to support my work and keep these videos coming, then my YouTube membership might be just the thing for you. As a member, you'll get access to members-only videos, including the art of wintering and the Successful Artists Bootcamp. You'll have early access to many tutorials and free downloadable resources such as workbooks and art prompts. It's my way of giving something extra to those of you who want to dive deeper into your own creative practice. So if that sounds interesting, just click the join button below this video or check out the link in the description to find out more. Of course, watching, liking and sharing my videos is already a huge support, and I appreciate every single one of you. Right, let's get back to today's tutorial.
So I have completed all of these, and what I'm going to do now, they are all dry. I'm going to go in with some colouring pencils. These are Polychromos, Faber-Castell. They're my absolute favourites. I put links in the description to all of the things that I use, but you use your own things if you want to. It's fine. And what I'm going to do now is to just take a couple of these. I'm going to start off with this one. Let's just move that there. So we can then zoom in. It's still kind of quite obvious that it's the branch, which is fine. But I'm just going to use my pencil here to go over some of these shapes that the paint made when I was kind of splodging it over. And I'm using these to sort of guide me and just to see where this might go. Now, if you're using pencils, you need to make sure that they are sharp. I say this all the time. I'm like a broken record if you actually understand what that term means. Oh dear, sometimes I do feel very old. Let's just put that there. There we go. So I'm just kind of breaking up the space a little bit, and now I'm going to add some texture, some visual texture rather than actual physical texture. Yeah, visual texture, that's what I mean. And I'm going to do this just by creating some patterns within these what were originally the negative spaces. Just putting in these kind of lines. So okay, taking inspiration from what's already there and then doing something else with it. I'm also going to start putting in some shadows and some tone, and this is why I like to use my colouring pencils. These blend beautifully. I've used this brand for many years, and the lovely thing about them is that you can buy one at a time. They do. Oh, they're just so beautiful. Just sort of shading in just some of the parts of this design, just to see whether that might be something I could explore further. There we go. Thank you so much for those of you who joined in with my experimental live on YouTube, which I did on Sunday. It was hilarious. I had just sort of planned to do a test, and then I pressed the wrong button and it went live, and so I thought, oh well, I'll just carry on even if it's just me. And I think there were 11 of us all together. It was very sweet and great fun. So I am going to be doing another live, which hopefully will be slightly more organised, on Monday the 31st of March, so depending on when you are watching this. But there will be replays as well. I'm still kind of working out the best time to do them, really, because obviously I have people watching from all over the world, so we're all in different time zones, aren't we? We might just have to see how it goes. But let me know what you think, whether you would like to join in with a live tutorial. What it will be me doing a bit of a demonstration, but mainly it'll be just having a chat, really. for about 20 minutes. Just thought, just to see how that might work. And it might not work at all, but again, it's one of those things. Right, this was a very dark indigo navy blue. I'm just going to go in with black now. Just picking up some of these and just... Again, this is why I love these pencils. They don't sponsor me, unfortunately. That would be good. But I just love them. So I have got links in the description to all of the materials that I use. Some are affiliate links, so I get a kind of a tiny commission if you decide to buy through those. but you do whatever you want. You know, you don't have to use my recommendations. If you've got your own favourite, then you go ahead and use that. You know, that's really how I work. It's about sort of encouraging you to use what you have already, and then if you want to kind of expand it a bit further, I've given you some suggestions that that you could use. There we go. Again, just I really like the effect of colouring pencil over the top of watercolour. I think it's quite underrated. You can get some very interesting effects. There we go. So just sort of playing with that one. There. Right, I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on to this one down here, because there's some interesting shapes. I'm going to go in with grey. This was the wood. Where's my piece of wood gone? It's kind of this kind of idea of the piece of driftwood. Again, things start to create little minds of their own, I think. There we go. I quite like these kind of whirly, kind of spirally type things as the knot of the wood. I think it's very interesting how when we really look at something, you know, something quite ordinary, we can see a little bit of magic, I think. And I do like that. There we go. Thank you for all your lovely comments. I do like a weather update. So if you're not quite sure what to comment on, you could tell me about your weather. I'm getting very knowledgeable about the weather patterns of the world. It's just so nice, isn't it, having a community like this one, where everyone is so friendly and we don't take ourselves too seriously. So again, I'm just putting in these contours. So it does make it quite organic, I think. Might sort of build that one up a bit more. I might do some more sort of tonal bits like this. I might do a few more using my colouring pencil. But the other thing I'm going to go in on with this is some acrylic pens, and that's what we're going to do next. So I'm just using an acrylic pen. You could use a Sharpie pen, you could use a ballpoint pen if you want to, and let's just line that one up like that. And I'm going to go over some of the lines that I put in with pencil. Again, this was the piece of driftwood. And I am actually liking these colours. They're sort of giving me some other ideas of what I might do. And what will happen when you do these sorts of sketches is that you will get ideas, and it might be I might do some printmaking with this, or I might do some embroidery. You know, all sorts of things will start to pop into your head when you use your sketchbook for ideas. And that is what I really want to encourage you to do. See, I am actually thinking that this would make quite a nice piece of embroidery. So I might do that. I haven't done any embroidery for a while actually. That really could be quite lovely. Again, sort of bringing that idea of strata coming through. I'm just going to turn my book around because I want to work on this one. So again, these were the sort of the pebbles and the holes and the patterns in the pebbles. Again, I'm just using my acrylic pen to pick up the lines. So I do like this. This is beginning to look a little bit like a rock pool actually. I do like a rock pool. So very simple, but it kind of changes the idea, and I do actually like that. Let's just sort of put in another line. A few more lines in these. You can see how the pattern starts to come together. It's quite interesting, quite liking that. I'm going to do a few more, and then we're going to use some acrylic paint. We're going to have the same sort of idea, and we'll just see what happens when we use a completely different medium. So I've turned to a new page in my sketchbook and done 4 basic shapes, squares here, and then I've taken the ideas from these ones and I've just put them down on here, just using a pencil for the moment. So 4 different ideas. I'm going to be using a limited palette in my with the acrylic, and I'm going to use a brush, and I'll use some sticks and some various other tools as well as I go. So let's start off with this one. It's a very simple shape based on the pebbles and the stones. And what I want to do is just to kind of really look at these shapes. I'm going to go in with this blue. I'm going to mix it with a bit of the buff colour. I've got my brush is damp. It's not wet. Just going to use this kind of circular technique. I don't really want to see too many brush strokes. A little bit more of that. Obviously you use whatever colours you want. I just want to give you an idea of just how we can take the same theme and do something very different with it. And when I talk about developing an idea, this is what I mean. So you take the same shapes, same sort of patterns inspired from the natural world, and then you do something different with them and see what happens. So I'm just sort of putting this together again. This is my sketchbook, so things aren't going to be beautifully finished at this point. They're just giving me an idea of what I might do. So I've got that space there. Now this one, I'm just doing more of the buff colour. Like that. Just putting that in there. I do like these colours working together. I've used them before many times. I think they work really well. I'm not using water to clean the brush. I'm just using my rag. And now I'm going to go in with this pink. Just going to pick up a bit of that pink, mix it with the buff here. Might need a little bit more. And I'm going to go on this side, so the pink would just give it a bit of a hint of pink. It's not like the bright neon that I will be using later. Those colours are just so important in our work, and I would really encourage you to try colours that you wouldn't normally use. And we always kind of go back to our favourites, but I think it's always worth giving another colour a go and seeing what happens. So again, just sort of building that up like that. And then in this one, I'm just going to clean this. I'm not using yellow at the moment. When I use the yellow, I'll make sure I've got a very clean brush because I want it to be quite bright. And yellow is a colour that corrupts the most easily, so you only need a tiny bit of another colour on your brush and gone is the bright yellow. There we go. Just sort of putting these in here. I'm not sure about this at the moment. It's kind of a little bit messy. Remember, everything goes through a messy stage. Don't give up just because it's not looking good. It's very normal for things to go through a messy stage. I'm going to pick up a bit of blue. If the paint is not moving about, you may need to add a tiny bit of water, but not too much. Or you could use a gel medium if you want to. That just, it kind of stops the drying, stops it drying quite so quickly. Not bothered about that at the moment. So again, just sort of putting together these ideas. I'm now going to go in with the bright pink, clean that brush. Let's just pop it a little bit straight in with the neon. Like that. I'm going to do a few more on those, and then I'm going to do some more on this one as well, but I'm only going to be using 2 colours with some black and some white. So this time I'm going to use the blue, white and black with a tiny bit of pink, which would be great fun. And I've cleaned my brush. I am going to come into yellow. I'm going to use yellow a bit later. I changed my mind on that one. So I'm going to start off with some bright pink mixed with some white. Now this design was based on those tulip leaves. That kind of lovely curve you get on those leaves. Just lovely. Yeah, so don't be afraid of just taking the idea of a shape and then using a completely different colour. Again, that's another way to develop an idea. Yeah, I'm taking the idea of the leaf and now I'm doing something else with it. I'm going to pick up the blue I'm going to make my brush a little bit wetter, I think. going to make it damp rather than wet. That's a little bit too wet. Let's do that. Just takes a bit of practice to get the kind of consistency that you want. Again, all paints are different and the colours are different. That's when you kind of start to learn about how different colours actually feel, it's quite a revelation. And it's all to do with the different chemical construction of the paint and the pigments to create the colours. But that's why they will actually feel different. It's an interesting thing, the chemistry of paint. Just keep picking this up. I'm going to start to add my black and white in a moment. Just bringing those. Oh, I do like this colour combination, this all Prussian blue and the pink. So I'm going to put those there. I just want to kind of have a bit of a tonal variation on that bit. Again, just an idea coming together. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take the pink. I'm going to add a little bit of black. With black, you only need an absolutely tiny bit to make a difference. You really do. And when you add black to this neon pink, you get this really interesting dusty grey colour, which I really like. Again, a little bit too much water on that brush, but again, I really like this colour. And then you can add a bit more pink to it as you build up on this bit. And I like these tones. What I'm going to do now is come in with white and start to blend to see what happens with that. You get this kind of smoky colour. You do have to work quite quickly with acrylic because it will dry very quickly, but the advantage is if you don't like it, you can just go over the top. I'm quite liking this. I will continue with this idea. Again, it's still very messy, but it's giving me some thoughts and some ideas. What I might do, I'm going to go in with a neon pink again. Just blend. I've still got some of the colours on my brush, and that's going to come out. But that's, yeah, I knew that was going to happen, so that was good. Put those on there, so you can see that that's kind of coming together there. Let's just do this corner in blue so I can see what all of these shades and tones are going to look like. And I can always sort of tidy up some of the corners. So if I want to tidy up, I'll get a thinner brush, I'll make it damp, not a bit too damp, and then go in over the edges like that. And I might just sort of build those up. So let's move on to this side where I am going to use my yellow. So clean brush. Clean brush is essential. I'm going to go in with the yellow. Look at that, beautiful. Yellow paint does feel different. It really does. There we go. That's just popping that in there. I want this to be like a block of colour here. Just bringing that like that. And I'm going to do another yellow bit down there. So if you're going to use yellow in your work and you want it to be vibrant and pure, it's always a good idea to do the yellow first. Then there's no risk at all that your previous colours are going to get in the way and mess it all up. I'm liking that, and I think this bit up here needs to be yellow as well, actually, looking at it for a bit of balance. And then you think what colours would go with the colours that you're using, and with this one I'm just going to use black and white with the yellow. Keep that really bright. I'm going to do some mark making on top of that one when it's dry. But what I want to do now is I want to put in some black. And go straight away. This design here is moving away from the original piece of driftwood. We're getting something different. And of course, you don't have to use acrylic paint. You could use felt tip pens, you could use colouring pencils, or gel pens. Gel pens would work really well. I'm going to use a bit of the yellow here, tiny bit of black. See? Just a tiny bit of black makes a huge difference. Absolutely huge difference. I'm just going to put that there. Quite like that. I'm going to go over that pattern because I can redo that over the top and it would just be easier. And once acrylic paint has dried, you can go over the top of it, obviously with acrylic pens. You could go over with the biro or ballpoint pen, or pencils. But you do have to leave it to dry, but that doesn't take long. Smoothing out those. And now I'm going to pick up my white. I'm going to go into that. Again, just filling in some of these spaces. I want to blend that in. Sort of circular motion with my brush, quite like that. Come down here, a bit more black, I think. You're just sort of building up that contrast. You can see that I'm getting a very different type of effect. Add a little bit of water to that just to move the paint around a bit quicker. Otherwise you're going to get really bored. So that's given me an idea of what I could do. So this is the last one, and this one I'm going to be doing sort of purples and blues, I think. And again, using a negative space. Let's come in with some of the blue into that negative space. Again, it's just so obvious. They are kind of trees and branches. I don't know whether I want that or not. I might have a think about that. Pick up a bit of white. This side. Actually, I'm going to put away the brush and use something else. So what I'm going to do with this one, I've just put in another kind of branch there. It was just too obviously a tree, and I really didn't want to have that kind of idea. It's not what I wanted. Anyway, I'm going to be using a little glue scraper because I want to create some texture. I'm just going to put that across there. You could use a palette knife, you could use a bit of cardboard. I think it makes quite an interesting texture, because this wasn't going how I wanted it to. I was just a bit bored with it, I think. So this is going to be quite rough, and again it can be something that I can tidy up later if I feel that it needs tidying up, or it might be that I keep it very rough. Just, you know, you can't get details when you're using a bit of plastic. I'm just popping those there. Get my rag to clean it, and then I'm going to go in with my bright pink. I can't remember whether I said I was going to use bright pink or not, but bright pink it is. Again, just using the edge, just having some fun actually. Making a mess. Like that. I'm going to go in with some more white. When it starts to dry, you can then scrape over the top of it again, and that will give you a different texture and different patterns as well. That can be fun. And again, and I can't stress this enough actually, your sketchbook is a place for experimentation. So not everything you do is going to be your favourite. But the idea is you're learning different techniques, and this is what I say to my students all the time. You know, you're trying out techniques. So like this scrapey technique, you could use, you know, for something else. You could use for background for a landscape, for example. And you know, that's the point. Actually quite like that. So I'm having the contrasts between this one and this one. Those similar colours, completely different feel to them at all. You know, much more textured, and this is with a smooth texture. So I'm going to have a little play with these just over the next few minutes, and then we'll come back and see where we've got to. So I've been playing around with some ideas on this one. I got a marker pen, just sort of started to put a few marks. Quite like this black and yellow. I think that works quite well. Can really see the contrasts between these two. And then when I was doing this one, I thought I would go back to the watercolour pieces and start to add some ink to these ones, just a few of them, just to see what might happen. And then coming back to this one where I put in this sort of texture, I thought, right, that's the sort of thing that I want to do with some collage. So just sort of turning my pages over, I've just started to put together some squares of collage. I've got a whole load of scraps of paper, old maps, some sheet music, some old dictionaries and directories, which I really like because it gives this, I wanted this sort of neutral. When you do collage, you could use anything you like, obviously, and if you wanted to use particular colours, then magazines are brilliant. And I'm just using a glue stick. And again, you don't have to do this kind of grid. I like it. It helps me to kind of focus on the composition and when I'm putting these together. So in each of these spaces, I'm putting the same colours and tones because I want this uniformity across this page. It's not always how I work. Sometimes every single one will be very different, but this, I just wanted to try out this idea. Again, it's about explaining how I develop an idea. From the original piece of driftwood, for example, to working with watercolours, then acrylics, and now collage, you have a starting point which you then work through. And I know that for many people, this is the challenging bit, and I really get that. And like I say all the time, you just need to practice. That's what you need to do. There's no getting away from actually doing the work. Sorry about that. But hopefully it will be enjoyable work. So, it's not arduous really, is it? Not really. I'm going to leave some space. On some of them, I'm just tearing these. Sometimes I would use scissors or a knife and have a straight edge. Other times I like a more jaggedy edge. So I'll pop that one there. And I collect collage pieces from all sorts of stuff, mainly through things that are being thrown away. So that's always kind of like an added joy, really, isn't it? When you know that something is going to be thrown away and then you can use it in some artwork. I like that. And I had this little bit of yellow writing paper and I thought, yeah, because I did like that yellow. I liked the yellow and black. So I thought, let's just pick that out. And, pop that on there. So this tutorial is turning into quite a long one. I hadn't quite planned it to be this long, but I really wanted to show you more than one thing, because I think this is really important when we're developing our art practice, that we have this sort of freedom to play and to explore. But most importantly, it's about not going just with the first idea that pops into our head. It's about trying out something new. Now, because I just used the glue stick, these are all dry. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a Sharpie pen for some of these. And I'm going to think about the patterns that I've used in the past. In particular, these sort of pebbles, the sort of shape on the pebbles and the stones, and the wood. So they're the ones that I really did like. So I'm going to start off with those. I'm not going to do all of them, but I'm just going to show you a couple and then you can get the idea. And using the Sharpie pen, again, just doing these, picking up these shapes, and and the pattern on that beautiful pebble, which I've put away somewhere. Now I can't find it. I'll find it in a moment. But the idea is that these kind of gorgeous lines become part of the pattern. And Sharpie pen is great for this. You could use acrylic pen. I'm going to go in with an acrylic pen, a black and white acrylic pen, to put in some marks, because I think that can be very exciting and can look really good. And with this one, again, this, where we have that knot in the wood, and then the sort of the texture of the collage papers, I think can work really well. And you can make these as complicated or as simple as you like. Those sorts of things there. I'm going to do a few more and then we will finish off. So I just wanted to show you some of the things that I've done on this one. I've gone back to my colouring pencils and I've got my white Drawlish acrylic pen, which is brilliant, and a black acrylic pen as well. And I'm just kind of taking some of these ideas. Let's just work on this one and I'll show you what I do. So I just put the outline here. I'm going to go into the negative space, very similar to something I did a few weeks ago. When we look at the negative spaces, we can really get some interesting designs. This is just a black pencil, colouring pencil. Just sort of putting that over there. And obviously the texture and the patterns of the papers underneath are going to come through as well, which I really like. Oh dear, I'm still a little bit croaky. Right, let's and again, how you use your pencil is going to give a different type of effect, isn't it? If we have like a scribbly thing like this, you're going to get something different. And this is the joy of working on a smaller space, is you can just try out things. What will happen if I just put in a load of marks here? Does that look quite good, or could I combine a bit of kind of gentle tone with some sort of textured pieces as well, and mark making. And if you like working with stencils, you could do some stencils over the top. You can see that that's now looking a little bit more interesting. Now we could then go in with the white marker, and we could do some dots and dashes and things like this again in the background, just playing around with an idea. And then you could come back to these pages when you want to move on to do something bigger. I think, oh yeah, I did all of those in my sketchbook. Let's have a look and use some of these ideas in the work. So this one I did just different lines. Again, I'm quite liking this one over here. I think I am going to do some white lines, just sort of breaking up that space a little bit. Collage is a very good way to learn about composition. You're training your eye to what looks good for you, which is obviously very subjective. But this is your sketchbook. You don't have to show it to anybody, do you? Again, so what I could do with this, let's sort of just put some lines here. Don't be afraid to try something. The whole point is that these are you trying things out, so it doesn't matter if it goes wrong. That is not the point. Now the other thing that I thought I'd pick up on was I put this little map in here, and I thought I would perhaps highlight some of the the roads, to emphasize rather than highlight. See what that could look like. Just shading those in. Just gives it a different feel. Just again, I'm just playing. But I do like textures, and I like doing mark making as well. But equally, you know, we can do some very gentle and careful and more subtle tones, and that can look really good as well. There we go. So let's have a look at all that we've done in this tutorial. So starting off with the watercolours and the lines, sort of pull that up again. You know, some of these I've worked on, some I might come back to, and then working with the acrylic and the pens, using different ways, different methods to put the acrylic on, and then finally some collage. I hope you enjoyed that tutorial, that you've got lots and lots of ideas. I know I say that all the time. If you haven't liked, subscribed, commented, shared, that kind of thing, and this is your kind of thing, that would be absolutely wonderful. It just helps me to reach other people who maybe would enjoy this content. Let me know in the comments what you're going to do, your thoughts, your ideas, what elements of the natural world you're going to use in your pieces. And if you'd like to see some more, you could look at this one and this one, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.